Hello, today's video I'm gonna be scrapbooking my recent trip on to Paris, which was a sort of an impulse trip, last minute planned trip, and I'm using one of my journals where I used to put little stickers of little memories, but I haven't quite been keeping up with filling this particular journal, and I have only a few pages left, so I thought it would be wonderful to do this trip scrapbooking to finish it off. During the trip, I didn't take any resources with me, but I used a good notes and I did all the sort of dating and pictures in it. So that's what's going to be my guide onto scrapbooking today and making the paper version of it. Um, this was my first time traveling to Paris, so I think in general I might give some tips and notes of what could be useful to know when you're going to Paris or to get around it. And also, this was my first trip traveling by trains across the border, so it was sort of a special memory. Traveling around Paris, we used a Navico cards that can be purchased at the stations. It's very similar to Oyster cards. You can preload them with tickets. It lasted us we needed about 12 tickets for entire journey, and you can always top it up as well. Little pocket to put it in. Sticky tape so it doesn't fall.
Paris is said to be like a conch of a snail, so getting around is not difficult.
And on the first day, we didn't take to do a lot. We just basically traveled in. I did pick up our hotel card. On the first day, or technically on the second day, once we arrived, we went to what guidebooks list as Montparnasse area, but actually we just figured out it might be a bit of close enough separate area with a Chinatown, and we went to get some banh sandwiches.
So Vietnam used to be a colony of France, and out of this union, the sandwiches were born.
So we tried multiple. I think we tried three different shops of banh mi sandwiches, and most of the guidebooks list 10 hang, and actually it turned out to be the best one in it. Another thing to see in this area is a sculpture of emerging dragon. We didn't quite make it to it, but I thought I'll give you a mention. This was also the first area that we saw these water fountains that I thought was very peculiar shape, though we scattered and throughout the Paris really. The area also has a lot of street art and murals. After having our sandwiches, we also went to Latin Quarter. Alongside Siena, the river, there is a lot of open air bookshops. The guidebooks pre-warn that a lot of booksellers don't really like them photographed or their displays photographed, so I just took a little picture of the closed
Stall.
But this is also a good place to get your little postcards. This is the postcard that I got. It is also a lot of sun open areas, so sunblock is a good idea. On the island across the Siena is a Notre Dame, which we also came by. There was a very detailed paper model on it in a window. Sadly, Notre Dame is still being repaired. We also made a few stops for drinks, and there's a big culture of just having a drink and people watching. Another visited place in the area is a bookshop called Shakespeare and Company. It is a bit of a queue to get in. We don't allow any photographing or filming of inside. There is clearly a big myth around the place. It is also selling English books, very nice tote bags, and if you do get a book, you can get it stamped with their little Shakespeare stamp, which I'm just sticking in now. We did get quite a few books there and a tote bag. Another thing in this area, there are lots of streets with bookshops and manga shops. So you can literally go from one shop to another. Also, they give a bookmark with every book in the Shakespearean Club. So I'm gonna stick one of these bookmarks to finish with the event for dinner. Had some appetizers like French onion soup, but I also had my first snails. Restaurant had entire vibe going, but menus looked a bit of like graphic novels, and even the cards had little design on them. We're trying to reflect these emerging dragons on this. So we now reached the Sunday of my trip. It was once again very good weather to start with. However, because it was a Sunday, most of things are closed. So we wanted to go to area here, Belleville. And basically, it's a very nice place to visit in the sense that has another Asian center, let's say, is very international. The books also say that it has a big Jewish community. So you can have different treats. We wanted to go to taste more banh mi, but most banh mi places were closed for Sunday. There are also two other places people visit in the area. One of them is Belleville Park, and the other place is the cemetery. As apparently we also do guides because there are a lot of known famous people buried in there. So instead of going to Belleville, we went to see West Wing because we figured out that the famous areas, the touristy areas, are gonna be open. This is not very accurate cutout, but I think it's will suffice. As basically, this is possibly two different areas. I don't think we count as single, but basically, we did stop at the École Militaire place, and then we went to Eiffel Tower from there. Also had a breakfast in this area, but then we went to our Triumph.
Arc.
We did hit them both at the same time, and they're very walkable. And closer you get to the Eiffel Tower, the more expensive it gets, and the closer you get to there, there's more people and there's more sellers that get into your face. And we all sell the same things, like miniature Eiffel Towers. Originally, we went to the park that is nearby, but not the Eiffel Tower Park, because Eiffel Tower Park itself is only by entrance. So there's like a park that basically connects to it, really, which we would ideally wanted to go to. However, lots of places, including that park, was closed because of Olympics. Well, we believe it's because of Olympics. Interesting fact about Olympics. We were looking up at all these mascots everywhere in the shops, and we're thinking, what is this mascot? Which looks like a triangle. So I was like, is it a croissant? It's a red triangle. And then we had to look it up, and it's apparently is a Parisian hat, which we didn't quite vibe with, sadly. in either sense. So from the park, even though it was closed from the side of it, not in this angle, from the side of it, you can see Eiffel Tower tip at least. And as you get closer, you can see more of it. If you do want to go inside, you have to pre-book a few months in advance. We were not so interested to go inside anyway, as we were just taking our arbitrary shot from a side. And another thing is that there's a lot of we spent some time reading because we really wanted to sit down and read. So there is a lot of like tiny squares. I come into these tiny green squares and I say, is it a park? And apparently it's just squares, but there's so many of them that you can just sit down and read or relax for a bit. So like I say, the next thing we hit, and the same time, which is like a little bit of a walk, is Triumphpark. Again, we just took an arbitrary picture. We didn't go anywhere inside or whatnot. And we find every single sitting spot all the time because we don't really enjoy walking necessarily. So there's a nice sitting spot right in front of the Triumphpark. Not far from there somewhere, we got some desserts from the bakery, but it was kind of like a pre-made desserts. We didn't really hit any good bakeries that specialize in desserts, sadly, because we were more fascinated with breads this time around. Little sticker from the bakery. And one of the things that Dee noticed, there was not enough recycling in the streets. Since we had a bit of time, so we went to visit a basilisk which had a free entry. Have no idea how to pronounce this basilisk. However, it was on the edge of Montmartre area. This is the area we probably touched the least. Also read up that the sort of cabaret, you can visit cabaret, but there is a certain dress code and you might not be let in with, your loungewear, let's say. And I was pretty much feeling that we haven't really packed for something like that. And, wasn't really fussed necessarily go there. So here we are. But in case you're planning to go, pack some better shoes than sneakers. And so we went to see the basilisk. And there was, in the day, there was about 33 chance of rain. And we hit it, and honestly, it was our first rain in Paris experience. Yeah, so neither our watches nor any nor internet log really have predicted the rain, and most of the days that remained the thing that the rain wasn't really predicted or with low chances of it, and we hit the rain a few times after. So it's sort of very unpredictable, and do have umbrella with you. For some reason, so the basilisk for some reason was very, very touristy area. Sadly, we didn't go inside because there was so many people looking for the shelter from the rain. And it was not just the tiny little spitters, but actually like proper showers. So it was sort of an experience. Oh yeah, and we did see this duck that was chilling at the bottom of a basilisk, and I just took a picture of it because I thought it was hilarious. After the rain finished, of course. Then there was this other coffee shop that we visited, which is very touristic in the tourist area. That basically had entire vibe going as well. It was like a studio cafe, I think the name of it. And it had like this wooden trees, and there's a lot of like squiggly drawings. The roof had like, I can't even fit it in, but maybe I'll put it on the previous page. The roof had like little characters on it, which was also quite interesting. So that had like entire vibe going for it. Oh yeah, I do have another basilisk picture. There we did a lot of stops for drinks, and then we stopped at another place as well, literally just for drinks. As I mentioned, that's entire culture just to go in coffee shops for a drink, not even a meal. Another thing they found is a duck shop that I never seen before, a shop that is fully dedicated to these rubber ducks. So I was like, we have to take a picture of it. And also we did buy something like more like a souvenir for someone. It's not cheap for what it is, but I felt like it was just very, very unique. And we even have this entire wall saying that dogs don't discriminate and can be any profession, whatever. So really we saw dogs that are like paramedics, which just feels like such a rare and wonderful thing. So we were very impressed. Which then brings us to the next day. So, you know, the day before that we hit, so this day in general, because West Wing, which is very touristy, Trump d'Arc, which was very touristy, we hit Montmartre, which, you know, also very touristy. So we spent the entire day in very touristy places. And we were a bit tired. Yet, on Monday, which was 27, we wanted to go to the Louvre. Interestingly, as I say, museums are closed on Tuesday, so we specifically planned to use Monday because we thought, you know, even though it's a bank holiday for us, most of the people might not be available, so maybe it's a better day, we said to ourselves. Sorry, guys. Let's back up a little bit. I forgot to stick the dinner pictures. I talked about it, so I'm just gonna stick it here. It's an Italian place, but book was Italian place, so I just have like a clam pasta. So it's called Via del Gusto, and it was very close to where we were staying in the hotel. So on the Monday, thinking that there's gonna be less of a tourist potentially, we hit the Louvre area. The weather actually looked very grey right before we entered it. So we also had in the bakery in the morning next to us, there is a bakery. We got some croissants and coffee. And I like, usually outside of Paris, whatever, I like my croissants almond. But then we got the croissants, actually classic was so much better because almond wasn't that sweet, but also lost all the fluffiness. So it was became a believer of like just a plain original croissant, really. The Louvre website says that you should also pre-order your tickets if you want to get in on a busy day. So we bought it from the night before, and the only spaces were left were like 9 o'clock in the morning. We didn't regret it at all because when we arrived there wasn't so many people. We just stood in a queue. We arrived 8:30 actually. We were not planning to arrive that much early, but we did, and we just stood in a queue for a bit. It does started to feel like very wet, but the point is that we got in basically on time, and it wasn't that busy. But while walking in Louvre, we saw that the crowd never vanished. There was always the crowd outside, and the Louvre itself became busier and busier. So I think it's a really good idea to just go right in the morning. I collected the map for the scrapbooking, right? So the map of the Louvre. This section is gonna be very long, guys, because there's a lot to say about the Louvre. So first of all, there are 3 wings and so many floors. Basically 5 floors, if you consider ground floor a floor. At the same time, it's just so massive. And we started from the Denon. Don't know even if you can see, it's just so massive. From the Denon rooms, which basically consisted most of the European parts, really. You know, I was like, we're gonna go everywhere, but we barely hit a little bit of Sully wing, and didn't even finish that, really, sadly. And Richel wing was absolutely not possible for us. Let's go to details. So I think the easiest way was to scrapbook based on the levels of the museums. So I started scrapbooking. So you go into the -2 floor level, what we say, and you go up and you basically pick a wing. Like I said, we didn't hit Richel at all, but basically we actually hit Denon as the first stop. First of all, before you go in, definitely collect. We're using Nintendo
for little guides. So you get like a set of Nintendo with a map and every exposition and everything, and earphones. And it only costs about €6 to like rent it, let's say. But it's like hours and hours of guides. So honestly, I feel like it was worth it. And generally, Louvre tickets were like €20 or something, and definitely worth it because it's entertainment for entire day if you have energy in you. And the only thing about the guide, and I have to tell you guys for sure, there are some exhibits that are missing and we mentioned in the guide. So it's really hard because we say the man with a glass eye and you're really interested in this glass eye, but you can't find this exhibit. And there are several of them missing. But I still feel like it was worth it because it also tells you about the room, sometimes about interior of the room and why that was like, about the style of the artist. It's quite, deep in detail, and I definitely learned several things. Now, we started from Denon and we sort of went up and went around this wing. There are European sculptures start there, and I'm really big in the sculptures. I feel after going to the Louvre, I can definitely say that the sculptures are my favorite anyway. And in this area, actually, I'm pretty sure that this is where Donatello sculptures were. And our goal was to see all the Ninja Turtles, honestly. So we saw Donatello sculptures, and actually, even coming back while trying to reach the other area, we came back to see, other areas as much as we can, but started with the sculptures. Even coming back in midday, it was still pretty empty. So it was very cozy, empty sort of experience. You can rest there. Now, after coming back right at the end, we did manage to hit some of the Egyptian stuff, but we haven't been soaking any of that anymore, like our brain was dead. At the same time, we did try to hit some of, so this area of Daniel kind of gets into the Sully wing. So we tried, like I say, at the end to get into Sully wing. So there is a history of Louvre itself in about this area. In about this circle, it's a medieval Louvre. We didn't see the history, so I think these connect to Egypt somewhere because I remember that. And in about this middle, there is only just medieval Louvre, which is very cool area when it's hot, which definitely gets. So it's basically just the bricks of the original building. It's basically just like a corridor, but it's very nice to walk through anyway and have that experience. We didn't hit the other section of the history, sadly. Like, honestly, we were so brain dead at that point. We spent about 7 hours in the museum, and I just couldn't soak any more information in me anymore. At zero level, again, we did the Denon part. I believe that's entire Denon part, and then it cuts into the square of Sully. So in Denon part, there are further sculptures. This entire area sculptures, I thought it was very cool. I really enjoyed it. And basically the Michelangelo sculptures are in there. And this area was blocked for renovation, I'm sure. There's more. Okay, so we couldn't see these further sculptures. This area was of Greek antiquities in terms of sculptures. So the Venus de Milo and some other deranged old sculptures but losing limbs. Interesting fact, there was an area of the sculptures where we actually used different limbs to make it full. Historically, we couldn't leave them like that, so we used, like, let's say, torso of the Venus and the head of Artemis or something to just make a full picture. So it could completely become a different god in a different context. But that was an interesting fact from the guide, really. So that was Denon. We couldn't cut into Sully, but basically what I understand that the Sully was a further, there's further Eastern antiquities and further Egyptian antiquities. And that probably was one of my favorites. Apparently it took 5 years to sculpt. I think it's very delicate and detailed. Floor 1, we really just done this part. We finished the Denon wing, and in this floor, so the floor 1, it's a Da Vinci floor. It's absolutely busy, like suffocating busy. Oh god, you guys have to really experience it. You can't even see Mona Lisa. The guides bring people, as long as I saw, bring people to the poster to explain the Mona Lisa, because you can't really get close to it anyway. There's massive crowd. I don't know why it's only Da Vinci. For example, Donatello, like I said, was pretty empty. Michelangelo was okay. But Da Vinci was absolutely crazy areas. There is some other European art in the area. There's not so many Da Vinci paintings or scribbles, let's say. It's only like 4 paintings, I would say. There's not as many as I would have expected necessarily. And the funniest thing, when we tried to take a picture from the distance and zoom it in, someone else's phone slid right into the frame. That's how bad it is. So it's just like a meme. So I really wanted to share that. It was just so busy at that point. At the point in the entire museum, it was sort of people really crowding everywhere. It was really suffocating. The longer we spent around, the more tiring it became to even stay in the museum. I think that's part of why we didn't like. We had like about an hour or two left, and we left a bit early. I think that's the point of it because people itself are really draining. Either you go see Mona Lisa first thing in the morning, not waiting, which we saw some people do. It's probably not going to be less busy at all. So my point is maybe that's better. Because most of the people went that direction, and I said, let's go other direction because I don't want to deal with people. So maybe it's going to be better, but honestly, my biggest point is that if you're only putting one day to see Louvre, you should see the areas you want to see the most first. And just don't delay and just go to them directly. And then obviously if you feel any energy left in you or you want a quick look at everything else, then obviously you can then do that. But I just say prioritize. Oh yeah, and I believe that Raphael, like I say, I think Raphael was in this floor if I remember correctly as well. So we saw, Ninja Turtles. The thing is that the next thing we prioritized was taking the pictures with all the gods, all the gods and goddesses. So when we were in the sculpture space with antiquities, with Roman Greek antiquities, we just did pictures with them. And for some reason, most dynamic of them was Artemis, and she had probably the most crowd as well to take pictures at. Yeah, so that concludes the Louvre visit. Also, we did have like burger at the Louvre because there are places to eat, but it is not nice qualityness. It's more like cafeteria quick food. So we got for burgers a safe option. That's concluded our trip, but there's also entire second floor which mainly is Sally and Rochelle parts. Particularly, I'm very interested in stationery shops. So I went to Junkudo, which is basically like a bookshop, specifically targeting Japanese. It's like Japanese non-translated books, really. But I got some stationery. I might have really liked some books as well, but I can't read them, so I just focused on the stationery. So I haven't opened this guys yet. There we go. Oh, lovely. I didn't know there was a card in this. But yeah. And I just got some little stickers with like puppies and squirrels because, I'm a big squirrel girl apparently. What I want to do, I still want to scrapbook this pattern and stick in here because I think it's very nice. So going to Junkudo from Louvre was about 10 minutes. That's why when we left early, it was still open for another hour. We thought, okay, this is something we can still visit. So that's the store. Definitely give a visit. I thought it was very sort of original, that it's original language. And it has such a great selection as well. Yes, I forgot to say before we finished that day, and I'm probably just going to stick it here, we had dinner at Cafe de Fruzelli, which is another Italian place. All right. I'll just stick our foods here, even though it's a little out of order, but I feel like I want it to be around the same day. Oh, look at that. I did finish the book. I haven't finished everything yet. Before leaving, it was Tuesday, and it was 80% of rain.
chance. So we again wouldn't be able to do Belleville. Like I mentioned, Belleville is mostly parks and sandwiches, right? So Tuesday can be really low day if it's like sort of like this. And Louvre absolutely shattered us in terms of walking. We had no goals. So in the end, we went to the area called the Marais, but for only one goal. I was planning to hit this area on the way to Belleville anyway, because there was a stationery shop called Paper Tiger. I'm sorry, Papier Tiger. We also, of course, had some breakfast on the way, so I'm just gonna stick our breakfast in here. But basically, we went to Paper Tiger, and it's absolutely cute shop. It's a stationery shop. I got some gifts there. It's actually quite nice to get gifts. We got these like paper origami souvenirs to make your paper food for my family, as well as I got a crayon blocks. Crayon blocks. I've never seen them before, and I thought it's absolutely amazing because they look like Lego blocks. Oh dear. And we can get stuck together, so you can actually build them together. So what I'm gonna do right now is just gonna quickly test them on the remaining website page. So I'm just gonna have a little swatch of these goodies, as well as I have washi tape. Look at that. Isn't it so cute? There was somewhere in the middle of it, there's like a little house. I don't know. Here, look. There's like a little house. So I can imagine that the other one is also a house, a hut. But I can imagine that this is like a hut as well, though it's not necessarily is. So now let's wash the weird crayons. We feel very hard, so we definitely not oily. Every single card we have is different. So grab two, but the patterns on them are different. And I'm like, gee, honestly, guys, I might just use the washi tape to stick them down because I don't know if you noticed, but I'm out of my glue and it's just getting less and less to get anything out of it. So let me just stick those out. Then I asked, can I take multiple cards? The guy was like, take the stickers as well, even though we were selling them. He's like, just take some stickers as well. And I'm just like, yay. So either way, I'm happy. That was Paper Tiger, and that was my entire goal for the day. Then we also noticed there are some board game shops in the area or close by. That was another thing we did on the day. It's called Ultra Jukes. I think it's Oberkamp or something like that, the area, because there are multiple of them. But it was very, very full of games. The selection was amazing, and also sleeves with almost any size. So I was really, really impressed. Again, not for everyone, I understand that. Most of our trip, and we didn't really do a lot more. I stopped documenting because the next day was mostly just the traveling part. And on the way back, and I just really wanted to say this, on the way back, we went by just like Waterstones or something in the station. So already on our side, found this refillable cat pen that I'm writing with today. I don't have a cat yet, a cat one. I have like a bear one, like unicorn one, and like, wow, this is perfect. I want to get a cat one. So, but we thought this better on the way back, so we just got one on the way back. And it also says be curious, which is just so amazing. In either sense, and then I got distracted by books. So I saw this book, which is basically Night Train to the Stars by Miyazawa Kenji, which I reference in old days, over 10 years ago, in my like first writing. I referenced Miyazawa Kenji, what I have from like crumples, really like little pieces of it, really. But I never read original because it never was available in translated version. So I found it and I was like, oh my god, this brings me back. I really want to read it. I always wanted to read it in original. Like it's such a bin.
this concludes my journaling session about Paris. And as you see, I did manage to finish and fill out the journal. By the way, it's just bound wrong. I got it cheaper, so it's bound wrong, but I'm still enjoying it. But yeah, there's a lot of memories in this. I started this like 2 years ago in about December, so like it was time to retire it and start a new one. So I'm really happy to have done it with you guys. I know this is mostly my personal experiences, but I hope that it was somehow useful if you're planning to travel and plan your trip, especially if you're visiting for the first time and you haven't been to places. So thank you so much for being here. See you next time. Bye.